The year is 1999, and culture is in trouble. Shakespeare in Love wins multiple Oscars. The Sega Dreamcast launches in North America to little fanfare. And Family Guy premieres on Fox. It's into this bleak landscape that one unlikely hero emerges, a Frenchman by the name of David Cage. Hi, my name's Tom from Bleeping Sickness, and this is the first episode of a series that I'm calling David Caged Heat, a playthrough of all of the games produced by this truly visionary artist who brought us such indelible titles as Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls. We're going to be starting with his first game from 1999, Omikron the Nomad Soul, or as it's known in the rest of the world, simply the Nomad Soul, because Omikron isn't a word.
I have many things to tell you, and very little time. My name is Kale. I come from a universe parallel.
Now you can see already that David Cage is truly breaking down the walls of what video games can do. In 1999 it was quite a radical concept to actually tell gamers the truth about how games work, which is that when you play a game you're actually inhabiting the body of a real figure in a different universe. This theme has recently been addressed in a metaphorical form, of course, in Super Mario Odyssey, where Mario possesses other characters using his hat Cappy. But metaphors are for cowards, and David Cage is no coward, so he will not truck with metaphor at any point during the course of Omikron the Nomad Soul.
That's it. You're ready. But remember, once you cross the breach, you're on your own. There's no saving and going back.
Now this is another important theme in David Cage's games, the idea that in real life there are no such thing as save points. Failure means failure and you cannot return from it. Say, if you made a series of really awful, terrible games that were critically reviled and didn't sell particularly well, of course you wouldn't be given a chance to make more of those games with a larger budget and further exposure. And those are the kinds of deep philosophical quandaries that we're going to be addressing as we play through this game. Now David Cage truly is ahead of his time. As you can see in this sequence, he is critiquing the current culture of self-care and self-love in the form of a repressive robot which enforces you to rehydrate and eat and be mentally well, which is a removal of basic human rights to be dehydrated, to eat poorly, and to be in a very bad mental place. And this is the kind of repressive regime that even in 1999 Cage saw coming and was raging against. As you can see here, it's quite the world that Cage has built here. It truly is like being in another world. The textures on these boxes look like boxes. The texture on this hair truly looks like pudding. Now this is very important. The game has credits that mimic the opening of a motion picture. Cage in his career is very much in dialogue with the film critic Roger Ebert, who once claimed that video games could never and would never be considered art. Though of course Cage's career has proven that this is not the case, that games can in fact be art, and Roger Ebert is dead now, and I don't think that that is any kind of coincidence. You see here that Cage is engaging in a kind of Brechtian postmodern self-awareness in that the city that we're looking at here is clearly not populated at all and quite shit, and yet the text is telling us that it is a very vibrant and alive place, really drawing attention to the artificiality of the world that we are inhabiting. So the first objective in the Nomad Soul is to access the apartment of Kale, the individual whose body we are inhabiting, who we can presume is named after the superfood which again David Cage was very prescient in predicting the popularity of. Now as you can see, we have solved the devilish first puzzle of the Nomad Soul, which is gaining access to Kale's apartment, a tricky little mind teaser that involves going to the apartment and using the apartment door key to gain entry.
Kale, I love
Now, David Cage is a very brave director. I think above all, that's bravery is the watchword of David Cage as an artist. And you see, in this moment, he's playing with non-linearity of time to show us a woman in her underwear. The reason for this isn't clear. I'm sure it'll be justified later on, and it won't be purely exploitative at all. Here's the first big twist of the game as you find out that Kale, the man named after a superfood, is nonetheless a member of the local police constabulary. So I think we can look forward to a good game of solving mysteries and civil rights violations. The symbolism of the rings is quite interesting because, of course, rings come up all the time within art and culture. There is the One Ring from Lord of the Rings. Obviously, it doesn't three rings here, so that's different. Rings are also used in unions of marriage. Again, only two rings needed then. And of course, rings were a key component of the Sonic the Hedgehog saga, a truly brilliant, serialized, sort of a modern day myth really that's still being told through games, oral tradition, and erotic fanfiction.
Oh, Kale. I thought I'd never see you again. Where have you been? I haven't heard from you in days. I just can't understand why you disappeared. Could it have something to do with the case you were investigating?
Now, this is a very advanced narrative technique that's called foreshadowing. Not a lot of people know about this. It's the idea that you give a little bit of information that might come in handy later on. This is the sort of thing that passes, most of the sort of layman players by, but a sort of intellectual academic type like me, I realised that this question, could it have had something to do with the case you're investigating, is why Kale disappeared, is actually a clue. And this is the kind of high-level script writing you can expect from such a visionary mind as David Cage.
Win out over evil. You just got back and you're already leaving? Kale, I love you.
Sorry, I just wanted that scene to play out in its entirety. I find it's really quite profoundly moving in a way that only games can be. A film can show you two people who are in love, a book can tell you about two people in love, but only when you're interacting in that way with the love of your life, staring at them with the blank-eyed intensity of true romance, does art truly tug on the heartstrings. So we're now on our way to Security HQ, the place where Kale is employed as a member of the local police department. And this is really where the story of Omikron, the Nomad Soul, a story that is in equal parts dramatic, amusing, and quite profound, is going to begin. Now, the Nomad Soul is most definitely a video game, don't get me wrong, but Cage is not afraid to borrow some of the grammar from cinema, for example in this establishing shot here where he is showing us all the important places and locations and items of interest within the police department, like there's a door. So here we are inside Kale's office, and that's where I'd like to leave off for this first part of our journey into visionary genius that is David Cage. This has been the first episode of David Caged Heat. I will be returning to you next week with another episode. This is Tom for Bleeping Sickness, signing off.